Okay, hi everybody, my name is Chanjo. I'm a lawyer here in Würzburg, Germany, and with me is Karina. Karina is from Ukraine and has come to Germany just a week ago, right?
Yeah, I've been here for a week already.
She came here to stay with a friend, first of all. Your mother's also, and Amy. You know, what will happen if I pick up Amy?
Yes, sure.
Okay. The reason we met is Amy. Amy is a toy poodle puppy. She's only
5 months. She's
5 months. And she was found by Nelly. Nelly, come here. Oops. Yeah. Okay. This is Nelly. And as everyone can see, they are the same breed. They are both poodle. The only difference between Nelly and Amy is Nelly is 1.5 years old and Amy is just 5 months.
No,
so
that's not an only difference. Your is giant poodle and my is toy poodle.
Okay, so Amy will not be the same size later on.
Yeah.
So they met at the park and that's why we're here. Okay, Karina, what are the questions you've had or other people have?
First question would be, what should I expect as a refugee in Germany? What rights and limitations does this status give me here?
Okay, well, that's an easy one. As a Ukrainian, you can just enter the European Union or Germany, Poland, France, whatever, not UK, with only your passport and stay here until May. So that's the easy part. You don't have to even register anywhere. You are just free to go without a visa. If however, you wanted to stay longer, which you can for up to 1 year and prolong for another 1 or 2 years, you would have to register for Section 24 for the mass influx directive in the European Union. So first information is you can just come here. You don't need to apply for anything. If you wanted to stay a little longer, you would have to register, but you are sure to be able to stay in Germany.
Okay, that's okay, but most people are interested if they can get any financial aid and medical insurance and accommodation help.
Okay, here. Now that's the easy part, was just to get here and to move around. That's the easy part. If you are in Germany and you require any kind of help, medical help or financial help for buying your own food or accommodation, you are entitled for help. The question is, how do I get it and how long does it take? Now that's a question that could be a little more difficult. You do not need to register under the title of Section 24 necessarily in order to get financial aid. However, probably people will ask you to register somewhere and then to apply at the Sozialamt, so at the municipal administration. You just walk up there and say, here I am, I need money or food or medical aid. And medical aid will work pretty well here in Germany. You will receive the same services and the same service level as anyone else under the legal insurance. So in case of an emergency, you could just walk up to a hospital or a doctor. But if you need just any regular treatment or examinations, you are entitled of full service of medical help.
Okay, and how do I register for medical help and financial aid? What are my steps to register?
Well, first of all, as for emergencies, you just walk up to wherever you need services. There are also some doctors in some cities who just don't ask for any registration, but if you want to go the regular way, you have to apply or register at the municipal administration. In Würzburg, that would be the Sozialamt, where you try to make an appointment, but still didn't get any reply for that. I mean, they seem a little overwhelmed currently or not fully organized yet. But once they are set up, you will make an appointment there, walk up there, say, here I am, what do I need to do? They may even issue a card to you where you can just walk up to a doctor's office and receive services. Okay.
Will I have to give away my documents, my passports and other when I apply for refugee status?
You should not. It has happened in the past for asylum seekers that their passport would be seized and then sent away to, for example, to Munich to check if it's valid, if it's authentic or not. As for the procedure for the registration or the Section 24, there is no need for them to check your passport or to even keep the passport for longer. So I would recommend you not to give it away. If they want to take your passport away or with no credible reason, just keep it and walk away. There's no need to.
But what if I won't get financial aid?
Now that's a problem actually. I would ask you to come back, because we've been discussing this question also with other experts and law clinics, and we were all sure that there's no reason to take it away. However, that does not mean that maybe some administrations would say, well, we always do the same procedures like we did with asylum seekers. But this case is different because there is no reason to find out if you are threatened by violence or torture in your home country, because as for Section 24, the one we have back here, only thing you have to prove is that you're a Ukrainian nationalist or national, that you were in Ukraine at the beginning of the war. Or some other. There are some additional titles that are possible, but in your case, there's not much more to prove.
And Section 24 is not about asylum.
No, it's
right?
not.
It's not about refugee status. It's
24 is not a refugee status, not an asylum status. And I would recommend people from Ukraine not to apply for asylum, but only the temporary protection under Section 24, under the mass influx directive from the European Union. Now that's a complicated one. It is the European Union has installed a directive for this certain case of the Ukrainian war, for the first time ever that they've installed and activated this directive. And that means that everyone from the Ukraine received temporary protection, and basically they have the same status as someone who has been approved as a refugee under asylum. The difference is, however, you do not need to prove that you are facing torture or political disadvantages in the home country. It is supposed to be a very easy way for a lot of people to come in and receive services and protection.
And if I get temporary protection, can I work here legally?
Yes.
Automatically?
Even though in Section 24 it says that you're not automatically entitled for work permit, the current opinion is that under Section 24 you are entitled to receive a work permit right away. So we haven't seen many of these grants yet, but I suppose that you will receive a piece of paper that will state that you are able to work as employed or self-employed. So you can start working in Germany right away.
Okay, and if the accommodation that Germany provides me doesn't suit me for some reason, for example, I start arguing with my neighbors, or I just don't like it, for example, can I change it?
Well, actually, this is the difficult one, because officially it is possible that Germany will assign you an accommodation, or at least a region, and that would mean that you would have to stay there if you wanted to receive and keep those services. You would still be free to go, but you will not be entitled to receive any further aid if you leave the place where you were assigned to. I mean, you're not being put into prison. You can still go around like a tourist, but if you were assigned a mass accommodation or a private accommodation, you may not be entitled to change somewhere else. I mean, you still can talk to some people or say, I go somewhere else and try to find some help there. But it is possible with more incoming people that they will assign a number of people that arrive in Berlin to go on to Cologne or to Munich or to Hamburg or to different places. Actually, the best way to deal with this is to find something on your own. There are web pages that match people seeking help and offering help, like you did, finding someone where you can get an accommodation privately.
If I can get private accommodation but for rent, can Germany help me pay for the rent or not?
Well, If you are not living in a mass accommodation, you are entitled for financial help, and that is higher than the financial aid that you receive when you're in a mass accommodation. In a mass accommodation, you will be supplied with shelter and food 3 meals a day. If you are in a private accommodation, you will receive a higher amount of money. That may not be sufficient to pay a rent of a city apartment in a good location, maybe, but you can use some of those fundings to pay for your expenses or to pay for your landlord. Currently, we do not know if there are going to be programs that the owner of an apartment can claim any help for his expenses, but it's still possible that programs like that could appear.
Okay. So if I have a temporary protection here, can I go back to Ukraine anytime I want?
Yes, of course. You've been asking this before, and I was surprised that people would think they would be stuck in Germany, could not go. You can go to Ukraine anytime. You can even go to another European country anytime. The only thing is, if you have received financial aid, let's say in Germany, in Bavaria, and you would apply for the same aid in France, and you tell them that you have already received money, they could say, oh no, you cannot apply in two different places. For financial aid, you have to go back to Würzburg. That's possible.
Okay, and for example, if I stay here in mass accommodation, can I go, for example, to other European country as a tourist and come back?
Yes, of course.
It's not a problem.
I heard that some people would worry if they would be, well, sort of...
Change.
Yeah, get a stamp and say you cannot move anymore. There's no such thing. Being in a mass accommodation does not limit your liberties in the future, especially not as a tourist. I kind of know where these fears come from, because in refugee asylum procedures, you would have difficulties as an asylum seeker to go on vacation in your home country and then come back, because they would say, well, if you can make vacation in Syria, obviously you don't have such a hard time, and then you could lose your status. Or if you're on a refugee status, you could not change to a different title. But that's different under 24. So that's why established this new kind of title, to not have all these difficulties for the people coming.
Yes, and you also mentioned that if, for example, I have a lot of money on my bank account, they can decline my application for financial aid? Yes,
actually, all these social benefits or aids are meant for people who cannot afford. So if you are really rich and can afford to live in a hotel or rent an apartment, then you're not entitled to financial social aid in Germany or European Union.
Do you think they really can check it anyhow?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, it is possible that they ask you to fill out a form and make a declaration of how much money you have available. I mean, there may be people who have money in Ukrainian bank accounts but are not able to access that currently. So these people would also be entitled for help.
Yes, exactly. And do you know how much is the financial aid for adults and for children?
I don't know the exact amount, depending on if you're in a mass accommodation, and yet there are differences between adults and children, and there can also be differences on what needs you have. I mean, I think pets will not increase your need, but if you have disabilities, that could mean that you are entitled for better help. Amy fell asleep, it seems.
She doesn't have to worry about such things.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about medical insurance? For example, if I have a chronic disease such as cancer or others, and I need to get an operation and really expensive treatment, can my medical insurance cover that?
Well, if you have a medical insurance in Ukraine, it depends on their terms, of course. However, when you come to Germany, you will be entitled to medical help, which would be equivalent to as if you were legally insured, medical insured in Germany. So the level of service would probably be the same. So that would mean if you have a disease or even cancer and need treatment, you would receive that in Germany.
Okay. It's not so popular to have medical insurance in Ukraine, to be honest, yeah.
Oh, so
because we have not such an expensive medical system. Operations are really cheap, so nobody actually bothers to cover.
So everyone just pays in cash by themselves?
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Well, that's a different system here. Everything is covered by a legal insurance here.
And I saw it on your
we just
tax calculation.
Calculated how much money is left if you make, let's say, 3,000 euro gross income, that there's less than half of it being paid out as net income.
Yes.
That's because the other half goes into taxes and insurances.
Yeah. Can my child visit school or kindergarten if we get temporary protection?
Yes, everyone at the age of 6 is supposed to go to school, and that's a huge challenge, of course, for German schools, because I assume children at the age of 6 do not speak English or German, so communication will be quite a challenge. But it turns out that these children learn language extremely fast. So there are different approaches. There could be special classes for people from the Ukraine, where they should have trained personnel for that. There could also be the approach that when they have only small numbers of students, of pupils, that they would send them to regular classes. That will be up to the municipal and how they deal with that. I mean, our mayor said we are looking forward for all those teachers coming from Ukraine to help us here teach the children. We don't know how exactly they will be working that out.
Okay. Can I attend free language courses?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But let me ask you some questions. I heard that a lot of Ukrainians are reluctant to come to Germany and would rather stay in Poland or in other neighboring countries. Why is that?
There are several reasons to that. First of all, because Poland is closer to Ukraine, and that gives them a chance to come back to Ukraine sooner when the war ends. Second is because you have to pay money for train, for example, or for a plane ticket or for a bus. Not everybody, not each company, transportation company gives free tickets for Ukrainian refugees. And for example, when my mother tried to come to Germany from Wrocław, Poland, they gave her only one option of a free train to Berlin, and that would be at 4 a.m. and standing ticket.
Oh, I see.
So she would have to stand for 6 hours in a train. Some people are totally fine with that, and others probably would like to stay in Poland and not to go through all the trouble.
But in Germany, you can travel with the railroad, with Deutsche Bahn, with just your Ukrainian passport. I'm not sure if you can just travel around.
Yes, that would be just once.
Just for one journey, right?
Yes.
So it seems there's a lot of people currently in Poland and also in Berlin, where they all arrived, but currently very few people in Bavaria. Have you met a lot of other Ukrainians here in Würzburg?
Is Würzburg really a big city?
Well, we have 130,000 inhabitants. No, it's not a big city.
It's not a big city. For example, in Munich, I think there is a lot of Ukrainian refugees.
That's true, yeah, I've heard about that also. It seems that most people are going to the big metropolitan areas at first.
Because, for example, because some of them don't even know about such cities as Würzburg and like that.
So it could be a smart strategy for those who are able to do some research to find medium-sized cities, because they may have better access to help or accommodations.
Yes, I think so. And also that's a great question. For example, if I'm in Ukraine and I have some friends already in Germany who also came from Ukraine as refugees, can I go to them? Can I select my accommodation place, city?
Well, first of all, when you come to Germany, you are free to go wherever you want. The only boundaries are once you are registered and then assigned to a mass accommodation. Usually I would assume that if you organize your accommodation privately, they are happy that you organize yourself. They will not interfere with you and assign you to something else. the assignments that are situated that are written into Section 24 are probably for those people coming in from one mass accommodation to another. So actually everyone is happy if you organize yourself and find some place to stay. The other question, of course, is what about the cost? If you are meeting up with friends and they have an apartment that costs more money than the financial aid will cover, that could be a different question.
Okay, but can government help me find a mass accommodation, for example, in Würzburg, if I come to Würzburg and apply here for accommodation?
Well, there are web portals where they match people looking for help. Currently, there's such a big willingness to help that at this time it is possible to find something in Würzburg probably. I mean, I think there could be even more offerings than there are refugees asking for it. But that could change. So I think currently is still a good time to come to the smaller places.
Yes, and it also would be cheaper here to find accommodation and to live probably.
That's true. I mean, there are rural areas, of course, would be even cheaper than that. Maybe it is that people would not want to come to smaller towns because there are not so many peers of the same country, but I think you will be welcomed quite friendly in mid-sized cities.
Yes, yes, I was here welcomed a lot. I think I don't have any questions left.
Okay, let's leave it with that then.